Coming up on the show today, we're going to look at some of Virginia's most creepiest and mysterious creatures. And then we're going to take a deep dive into some haunted history of real-life ghost stories and supernatural events. Today, it's Thanksgiving, Thursday, November 28th, 2024, and the Dark Forest is coming at you right now. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are having a fantastic Thanksgiving so far. I hope your Thanksgiving is going well, and I hope you're ready to brave this episode with me and enter the Dark Forest. Here we go! Starting off with the Richmond, Virginia Vampire. The Richmond, Virginia Vampire is the legend of William Wortham Poole, who has no record of a date of birth or location of birth. One legend is that William Wortham Poole was run out of England sometime during the late 1800s for being a vampire. Poole and his family lived at 721 28th Street in Woodland Heights in Richmond, Virginia. His wife Alice died sometime in 1913. That is the only date on the mausoleum that Poole had made for them. She left behind her husband, two daughters, Mary L. Fahrenholt and Annie Poole, and two sons, Lawrence W. and Samuel Poole. William Poole worked as an accountant for the Bryan estate, which owned the Richmond Times-Dispatch. Poole grew up in Manchester and was active in the Southside civic affairs. For most of his life, he belonged to the Central Methodist Church and was a Mason. William Wortham Poole died on February 26, 1922, at the age of 75 of pneumonia. Poole was laid to rest in a mausoleum in Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond with his wife. There are rumors that WW inscribed on the mausoleum represents fangs, while not having his date of birth or date of death on the mausoleum represents his immortality. The legend of the Richmond Vampire started following the real-life tragedy in which the Church Hill Railroad Tunnel collapsed on October 2nd, 1925. Taking an unknown number of workers' lives, the 4,000-foot long Church Hill Railroad Tunnel that collapsed entombed a steam engine that flattened cars and an unknown number of workers. Hundreds of workers ran from the collapsing tunnel in all directions. There was total pandemonium when the tunnel started falling. Witnesses reported seeing a muscular creature that appeared to be human with flesh hanging off its body and jagged teeth with blood coming out of its mouth, running from the collapsing tunnel. It ran straight to the Poole mausoleum and then vanished inside. When some people checked the mausoleum, nothing was found there or anywhere in the cemetery grounds. Another version said the creature was headed towards the James River. Another story says that the digging awakened an ancient evil that lived under Church Hill and that this is what brought the tunnel down. Another story says that it was fireman B.F. Mosby who crawled out of the tunnel and managed to escape his death, at least for the time. Mosby had been scalded by the steam from a boiler and his teeth were broken. He was rushed to Grace Hospital and died later that night. Could somebody who was familiar with the Poole story have noticed him and thought he was a vampire based on his jagged teeth? Whether the Richmond vampire story is true or just a very campfire tale, it is still up for debate today. The vampire legend gained momentum in the late 1950s and early 1960s. The Richmond's Professional Institute, Virginia Commonwealth University, told of strange happenings in the cemetery after it made some nightly visits. During the 1980s, the door of the Poole Mausoleum was broken open and words and symbols of the occult were found painted on the outer walls. The glass of the lunette window on the inner wall was broken from the inside. Coming up next, we have the Henrico County Werewolf. Throughout history, there have been legends of hairy creatures, including the legend of the werewolf. It's unclear when and where the legend of the werewolf began. The werewolf is a mythological creature. One legend states that certain people can change into a werewolf. Another says that a person can only change into a werewolf on a night with a full moon. Some scholars believe the werewolf made its first appearance in the Epic of Gilgamesh. However, the legend started, it has been handed down for centuries, first orally and then in written records. Does Virginia have werewolves? Well, recent sightings seem to prove that it does, or some think. Most of Virginia's werewolf sightings have occurred in Henrico County near the Confederate Hills Recreation Center at Lee Avenue in Highland Springs. Many of the local residents of this neighborhood have experienced more than one sighting of the werewolf. Those who have seen it say it doesn't seem to be interested in hurting anyone, but several reports have said that it will chase people around the park, but it never hurts anyone. It's described as being about 6 feet tall, and it's said that it walks on 2 feet and is covered in black hair with a touch of silver grayish white or grayish hair. Depending on who is describing it, it's said it has a head like a wolf. Sometimes it runs on all 4 feet, but many say that it can be heard howling, mainly on a night with a full moon. There are no official records of anyone being hurt by this Virginia werewolf. This next one is actually a haunted tunnel that is very eagerly intriguing and one that we would like to go to investigate one day. Come with me as we talk about the Poorhouse Road Tunnel. The Poorhouse Road Tunnel was built in the early 1900s as part of the Valley Railroad that ran between Stanton and Lexington, Virginia. The life of the tunnel as a railroad tunnel was short-lived as the automobile soon took over. The tunnel allows Poorhouse Road to cut through a hill in Rockbridge County. A small stream now runs through that tunnel. The Poorhouse Road Tunnel has a dark history and a reputation for strange happenings. During the earliest 20th century, it is rumored that the tunnel was a site of a number of hangings. Another story says that a couple of young girls were playing on the edge of the woods when they were shot and killed by an unknown person. People who visit the tunnel have claimed to hear disembodied voices, while others have reported seeing handprints on their car. Other people reported that fog appeared in pictures that were taken inside the tunnel when no fog was physically visible. Others have reported seeing ghostly shadows on the tunnel walls, the sound of kids splashing and playing in the water, and the faint sound of laughter has also been heard. One person reported that a rock hit his car and that he could hear footsteps coming towards the back of his car. Several people have also reported feeling the presence of an angry man and woman. The tunnel since has been vandalized with graffiti painted all over the walls. The next one we're going to dive into is called the Foxfire. Never heard of this one, so this one should be interesting. Let's find out what it is. The Appalachian Mountains of Virginia are full of folklore and flora. Foxfire is one of the mountain's unusually naturally occurring things. Most humans will never see foxfire. foxfire is a small, whitish, luminous fungus that commonly grows on dead wood in the forest. The best time for its growth is when the ground is moist and wet. It is also called fairy fire. Appalachian Magazine says that the oldest recorded documentation of foxfire is from 382 BC by Aristotle, whose notes referred to a light that, unlike fire, was cold to the touch. The light from the fungus ranges from blue to green and yellow, depending on the species. Among the large luminous forms is the ghost fungus. It appears completely normal during the day, but can emit a soft glow at night. Also known as a jack-o'-lantern mushroom, is an example of the bioluminescent fungus that can be found in Virginia. You should note that observing the glowing mushroom is a very, very, very rare experience. Currently, there are only 71 different species of fungus that have been identified as capable of glowing in the dark. Okay, that's a little weird. Alright. Next one we're going to travel to is the Old House Woods, which is a haunted forest. Here we go. Virginia is home to a haunted forest known as Old House Woods. The woods are located just outside of the coastal town known as Diggs in Matthews County. While most of the woods in Virginia are quite peaceful and beautiful, Old House Woods is just strange. The Old House Woods are located in the Chesapeake Bay area, which is known for its pristine coastal beauty. There are several strange and mysterious legends that Old House Woods is known for. One of the most active patches in the woods is a 50-acre area of dense pine woods and marshland near White's Creek. The area once served as a port for pirates and Revolutionary War soldiers who wanted to hide out. One of the mysteries about Old House Woods is centered on an abandoned house known as the Franny Night House that was said to be in the middle of the woods. People say the house set itself on fire and then put itself out. Eventually, the house was burned to the ground. There have been reports of people seeing a massive ghostly ship with lights and crewmen sail off the Chesapeake Bay through a fog, and a dock on the water at the edge of the woods. When the ghost ship docks along the banks of White's Creek, the ghostly crew climbs out of it to search for the treasure they buried there hundreds of years ago. The pirates and the ship were swept away in a huge storm and never recovered their treasure. Another legend about the ghost ship says that it sailed above the water and continued on above the trees before coming to a stop. Ropes were then dropped and the ghostly crew climbed down into the forest. Another story says that some of the ghostly figures are headless. It is believed that the pirates buried their treasure in the woods during the days of piracy in America. Another tale dates to 1929 when a man reported that he had been approached by a group of strangers carrying lanterns that gave off a very mysterious glow. As the group moved closer to the man, he discovered that they were skeletons wearing old-fashioned armor and carrying swords. Another legend associated with Old House Woods is that of the Storm Woman, a beautiful fair-haired spirit wearing a nightgown that makes an appearance when a gale is coming off the bay. She then rises above the tree tops, shrieking a warning to the watermen. The appearances of ghostly images and strange lights and the sounds of footsteps, cannon fire, and disembodied voices has all been experienced inside the Old House Woods. Alright, and the final mysterious ghost we're going to talk about for Virginia is the ghost of Evelyn Byrd. Colonel William Byrd II founded Richmond, Virginia in 1737, but it would be decades before more than a few hundred people lived there. William Byrd II inherited the former stag lands on both sides of the James River from his father. He visited the area and planned to build a city in 1737. Byrd's friend William Mayo developed a map, and the first lots were sold. William Byrd II and his family lived on Westover Plantation in Charles City County. The plantation was developed around 1730 by William Byrd II. Evelyn Byrd was William's oldest daughter from his first wife, Lucy Park Byrd. Evelyn was born in 1707. At the age of 18, Evelyn was sent to London, England, and was presented at the court of London. While in London, Evelyn fell in love with an Englishman. Her father didn't approve of the affair and brought Evelyn home. In November of 1737, Evelyn died at the age of 29. Some say she died of a broken heart. She was buried next to her grandmother and grandfather in the cemetery at the plantation, about 1/4 of a mile upriver and to the west of the home. Evelyn's first ghostly appearance occurred in 1738 when her dear friend Anne Harrison saw Evelyn walking toward her in the garden of Westover. Today she is sometimes seen wearing a white gown. Evelyn Byrd is still hanging around the old house. The ghost of Evelyn has been seen in the house by visitors on many occasions. Some have reported seeing her walking outside on the lawn near the house. Evelyn's first appearance after the present owners moved in was witnessed by a young girl in the northeast bedroom on the second floor. The young girl awoke and saw a lady kneeling at the foot of her bed. After looking to see if her roommate was still there, the girl looked back and saw that the lady had vanished. She was wearing a green velvet dress trimmed with old lace. A maid also saw Evelyn. She was sitting in the kitchen when she saw a lady in a long white dress standing on the pantry steps. Before the maid could figure out who the lady was, she vanished. A butler also had an encounter with the ghost of Evelyn. He stepped aside in the passage to let a lady pass by. When he realized it wasn't Mrs. Crane, he searched the floor and found no one. Once, a workman returned to work after lunch and went straight into the room on the third floor where he had been working. When he entered the room, he found a lady standing in front of the mirror. He went downstairs only to find that the family was away. A guest in the middle of the night once saw a lady go through her bedroom, the northeast guest bedroom. When the guest asked Mrs. Fisher about it, Fisher told her that she had not been in the guest bedroom. Several years ago, a tourist took a picture of a lady who he thought was a hostess in costume. When the film was developed, there was no one in the picture. Evelyn appears to be a real person to those who are fortunate enough to see her spirit. In 1777, William Byrd III died by suicide while sitting in his favorite chair in his bedroom. Some people have reported seeing him slumped over in his chair. While William Byrd III's first wife died when a heavy cabinet fell on top of her, people have heard her cries echoing through the house that she's still waiting for someone to come help her. Alright, now let's get ready and take a deep dive into some haunted history of real life ghost stories and supernatural events that occurred here in America. History is steeped into bloody tales, and the souls from these stories may not always rest easy. Traumatic events such as war, slavery, murder, imprisonment, and violent accidental deaths have played out in every town and city across our nation. And traumas like these are at the root of practically every ghost story ever passed around a campfire, told with reverence and a shaking voice, or recorded in a historical document. Perhaps an untimely, unjust, or uncommonly brutal death is almost always found at the heart of a haunted location, because it's easy to understand how the spirits of people who meet a tragic end would have a hard time moving on to the other side. They may be so shocked by their own death that they don't know it's time to leave the world. Or perhaps they're so angry about what happened to them that they feel bound to the realm of the living so they can try to share their stories or even seek revenge. As we start off, we're going to take a look at unsettling colonial Williamsburg. In 1699, Williamsburg was made the capital of the Virginia colony. The capital up to that point had been Jamestown, but after nearly a century of hardship, including starvation, bloody confrontations with the Powhatan tribes native to the area, a rebellion, and fires destroying Jamestown's, more than once the colony's leaders thought it would be a good idea to then move on. They chose the nearby Williamsburg, which was fortified by a 6-mile-long stockade. It was also home to the College of William and Mary, America's second oldest institution of higher learning. The new capital prospered, and Virginia's first paper mill, printing press, newspaper, and theater all sprung up in Williamsburg, as well as the country's first hospital for the mentally ill. The town grew into a cultural, social, and political center of the colonies, and so when rebellion against British rule began to stir, Williamsburg was at the center of it. When the Civil War broke out less than a century later, the Battle of Williamsburg took place in a driving rain that soaked the blood of 4,000 Union and Confederate casualties into the soil. With such a rich concentration of unrest, passion, and trauma, it's no wonder that countless paranormal encounters have been reported throughout the entire town. The Wythe House. Here we go. Reverend Dr. W.A.R. Goodwin, the man who championed the preservation of Williamsburg, said he wouldn't give a hoot for anybody who doesn't believe in ghosts. Being that his office was in the George Wythe House, he likely had first-hand experience with the immaterial residence of what is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Williamsburg. Indeed, in 1935 he wrote, "One is not alone here. The ghosts of the past are my gladsome companions in the near midnight silence." The house was built in the mid-18th century to be the home to the notable patriot and lawyer George Wythe and his wife, Elizabeth Tariffero. During both peace and wartime, a great many people stayed at the house, including General George Washington and General Rockabaugh, who used it as a headquarters during the Revolutionary War. Many who visit the house today believe at least one of its inhabitants may not have ever left. George Wythe, a respected, dignified man who was a signatory on the Declaration of Independence, met a lurid end. After writing a will that was quite generous to his disreputable grandnephew, George Wythe Sweeney, the younger George is said to have poisoned his great-uncle to get his hands on the inheritance as fast as he could. It took 2 agonizing weeks for the poison to finally kill George Wythe, in which time the nefarious plot was uncovered and the grandnephew was written out of the will. Though Wythe did not die in the house, some visitors have claimed to have felt his spectral touch, especially on the anniversary of his death, June 8th. Despite Wythe coming to a bitter end, his ghost is not the spirit who has made the Wythe House an infamously haunted spot. That honor goes to Lady Anne Skipwith. She and her husband, Sir Peyton, were friends of the Withs and often stayed at the house. During one such visit in 1779, she is said to have gotten into a fight with her husband at the ball being held at the governor's palace. The cause is not definitively known, but the rumors hold that Sir Peyton was perhaps not the most loyal of husbands. Whenever the fight was over, it made Lady Anne run back to the Wythe house alone, losing a dress slipper along the way. Once there, she raced up the stairs to the room she was staying in. One legend suggests that Lady Anne took her own life, though historians now believe she died during childbirth. To this day, her uneven footsteps can be heard going up the steps. Sometimes the closet door in her room swings open, and occasionally she even appears to guests there wearing her ball gown and only one shoe. Now, we're going to go to another infamous house located in the haunted witch town of Salem, Massachusetts. It is the witch house. The home of Jonathan Corwin, a judge in the witch trials, and uncle to Sheriff George Corwin of Salem, is known today as the witch house. The house still stands, a dark and brooding wooden building with small windows. This is the place to which Corwin would retire after a long day of interrogating witnesses, hearing diabolical testimonies about the devil, and sentencing people to their deaths. It is the only building left standing in Salem that has a direct link to the trials. Some maintain that it's more than just the old timbers of the home that tie the witch house to the past. Today it's a museum open to the public, and its small, tight rooms often make visitors uncomfortable, lightheaded, and uneasy. There have been many reports of inexplicable cold spots, the feeling of being touched by an invisible hand, and even the sound of a child's voice. Now we're going to go to Gallows Hill in the town of Salem. For centuries, no one really knew where Gallows Hill was. There was no shortage of speculation and stories, but until 2016, there was not much evidence. After 6 years of research, Professor Emerson Baker of Salem State University and the Gallows Hill Project announced that he was certain that Proctor's Ledge was the precise location of the 3 mass executions that took the lives of 19 innocent people, and not nearby Gallows Hill Park, which was long thought to be the ghastly place. No bodies have been found in either location, though eyewitness testimony from the time of the hanging say that the bodies were discarded at the site. Strange mists, noise, and floating orbs, however, are often on offer for those who visit the ledge. The town of Salem dedicated a memorial at Proctor's Ledge on July 19, 2017. The 325th anniversary of the first mass execution. Even after 3 centuries, people are still trying to come to terms with the injustice of this very tragedy. Alright, here's some very good haunted history for you guys on some very haunted objects. We're going to start off with the infamous, as I call it, the Devil's Box. It's the Dybbuk Box. This wine cabinet is no ordinary antique, though that's what furniture refinisher Kevin Manus thought he was getting when he purchased it at an estate sale with the intention of fixing it up and giving it to his mother as a birthday gift. The Dybbuk Box, as it's come to be called, is thought to be a prayer altar with a strong spirit attached to it. In Jewish mysticism, a Dybbuk is a malevolent spirit that cleaves to a person, or in this case, an item. According to Manus, the box was purchased in Spain by a woman who had escaped a concentration camp during the Holocaust with her life, but nothing else. The rest of her family had been killed. When the woman immigrated to America, she brought the box with her and wanted to be buried with it. That conflicted with Jewish tradition, however, so her family was not able to grant her that wish, and the box was sold in an estate sale to Manus. Once in his possession, things began to go very wrong. He put the box in the basement workshop of his store. One day while he was gone, the security gates came down, locking his clerk inside, and all the bulbs in the basement shattered. The clerk quit and never came back. When Kevin gave the box to his mother for her birthday, the woman had a stroke almost immediately and then refused to keep the box. While it was in Kevin's possession, he had nightmares of being beaten by a demonic hag and would wake up bruised. His sister had the same nightmare experience while staying at his house. This is all according to Kevin's 2003 eBay listing. The box soon was in the hands of Losif Nitsky, a student at Truman State University in Missouri. After Lucy's lights burned out and his hair fell out, he gave the box to Jason Haxton, a museum director who tried to decipher the mysteries of this Dybbuk box. After talking with Rabbis and the family of the box's original owner, Haxton concluded that the box was like a prayer altar. Haxton claims to have had his own share of misfortunes once the box came to him. The day it arrived, a tree fell onto his house, almost destroying it. He experienced vision trouble verging on blindness and would get welts all over his whole body. Venomous centipedes swarmed the wall behind where the box was kept. To try to keep the energy of the box at bay, Jason built an ark for it, a sacred container of acacia wood and gold. He put the box inside the ark and the ark inside a military shipping crate. Today, the box is on display in a room at the Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, where people have claimed mysterious protruding holes began to appear in the walls around the artifact as if something was breaking out from within the exhibit. And many people have witnessed a black cloaked figure passing through the door of the exhibit, even when it's closed. And the final one we're going to be talking about tonight is the Bazzano vase. Proving that looks can be deceiving, a seemingly innocuous silver vase is said to be one of the most cursed objects in the world, bringing death to each and every one of its owners. The tale goes that it was made in the 15th century for a bride-to-be and was given to her as a gift the night before the wedding. But she was murdered before she wed, supposedly while holding the vase. As other members of the family took possession of the vase, they died too. It then disappeared, perhaps hidden away by the family. In 1988, it surfaced again with a note of warning that said, "Beware, this vase brings death." When the vase was sold at auction, the note was conveniently omitted. The pharmacist who purchased it died within months. The vase was then purchased by a surgeon who died in just 2 months' time. The next cursed owner was apparently an archaeologist, and on it went until eventually either the police confiscated it or a terrified family insisted the police take it. Either way, the vase was then reportedly placed in a lead box and buried at an undisclosed location, which seems to have calmed its deadly force. And that's all we're going to talk about today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Definitely a lot of cool history there with the cool haunted artifacts, all the places, and of course the mysterious creatures here in Virginia. But hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys have a fabulous, wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. And until then, I will see you guys on the next adventure.